In the previous video lesson, we already talked about curves, and we also talked about vector valid functions, which is our mathematical model to be able to describe curves analytically. In this lesson, we are going to talk about smoothness of curves and how to calculate their lengths. To begin, or to properly define what it means when we say that a curve is smooth, let's give first a non-smooth example. So you can consider the curve on the picture. As you can see that the curve makes a very sharp turn at the origin. The vector function for this curve is given as follows: t cubed I plus t squared j. Notice that this doesn't have a k component, so it means to say that the curve totally lies in the xy plane. The interval of values of t is from negative 1.5 to 1.5. This point, or the point where there is a sharp turn, is actually obtained by setting t equal to 0. In other words, the tracing vector is here when t is 0. Let us see what happens there. If I take the derivative of r, you see that the derivative, or the vector derivative, is 3t squared I plus derivative of t squared is 2t j. As you can see, as t approaches 0, this derivative also vanishes. It meant to say that as t approaches 0, the tangent line, these are the tangent lines. The tangent lines seem to vanish, and finally when t is 0, notice that r prime of 0 rather, is the 0 vector. So at this point, the tangent vector is just a single point. And then as t goes to the positive values, you see that the tangent lines gets longer and longer again. Okay? So as you can see, one of the reasons why these curves are one way to describe the situation where there is a sharp turn is to say that the derivative at that point is 0. This is why we have the following definition. The graph of r of t for t in I is called a smooth curve if the following conditions are satisfied. Number 1, r of t has to be differentiable. R of t must have a derivative. Second, the derivative must be continuous as a function on I, and that this derivative never vanishes in the interval I, or the derivative cannot get a value of 0. A smooth curve is simply just a continuous curve having no cusps or sharp turns. So the intuition is that bawal yung mga sharp turns. An example ng sharp turns, katulad na sa picture kagaya nito. Yung ganito, for example, bawal din yan kasi meron ka dito problematic point. So these are not smooth curves. For example, straight lines, we know that straight lines are usually parameterized by the following, where p sub 0 is a given point in space and v is the direction vector ABC of the line. Then the line can be parameterized using r of t as shown. As you can see, or as you can tell, each component is a linear function, right? Am I correct? So as you can see, of course, because these being linear functions, each one of these is differentiable. Secondly, if I take the derivative r prime of t, the derivative is just a constant vector a, comma b, comma c. And this derivative cannot be 0 because the direction vector of a line cannot be 0. This is why straight lines are smooth or considered smooth, because its derivative exists, continuous, in fact, in this case, constant ang derivative, and that derivative is not zero. So let us consider this example. Determine the points where the curve parametrized by the following vector equation for this interval of t is not smooth. So we're going to find the points where the curve is not smooth. So in order to do that, we first get the first derivative, because the first derivative will tell us. As you can tell, each one of these are differentiable functions, so we only need to find where the derivative fails to become continuous, but I doubt that the derivative will be discontinuous because these are trigonometric functions. So the only way to get sharp turns is for the derivative to become zero. So first, let's calculate r prime of t. R prime of t in this case is 3 cosine squared, sorry, let me write bigger, 3 cosine squared t, derivative of cosine t, minus sine t, comma, derivative of sine cube t, that's 3 sine squared t, derivative of sine t using chain rule is cosine t, and then derivative of 1 is 0. So this is your vector derivative. So as you can tell, the derivative are again trigonometric functions, therefore they remain continuous. So if this curve will not be smooth, it will be at the points where this derivative is 0. So how do you know whether this vector, or at what values of this vector equal to 0? Now we use the following principle. We know that a vector is 0 if and only if its norm is 0, right? So in our case, if I take the norm of the derivative, what do I get as the norm? It's the square root of 9 what? Cosine to the 4th t sine squared t plus 9 sine to the 4th t cosine squared t. So this is your norm, plus 0 squared. Of course, we will not write plus 0 squared. So this is the norm. So therefore, the vector derivative is 0 if and only if this norm is 0, but you know, you can ignore the square root sign. So kailangan yung 9 times cosine to the 4th t sine squared t plus 9 sine to the 4th t cosine squared t has to be 0. For that to happen, so we will solve. As you can see, we can divide both sides by 9, and then we can factor cosine squared sine squared, but we are left here is cosine squared t plus sine squared t equals 0. Oh, this is 1, right? Okay, so this means that this will become 0 if and only if this is 0, and because this is a product of two things, either cosine t is 0 or sine t is 0. But from 0 to 2 pi not included, as you can tell. What are the values of t for which cosine is 0? We can, well, say t is pi over 2. What else? 3 pi over 2. For sine to be 0, t has to be 0 and pi. 2 pi not included. So these are all the possible values of t where you get you get zero derivatives. But to get the actual points, we have to evaluate, or the points that we are requiring, we have to evaluate r at these values of t. 0, r of 0, as you can see, is what? 1, 0, 1. So that corresponds to the point 1, 0, 1. If I evaluate r of pi over 2, we get 0, 1, 1. So that corresponds to the point 0, 1, 1. R of pi, sorry, that's negative 1, 1, negative 1, 0, 1. So that corresponds to the points negative 1, 0, 1. And r of 3 pi over 2 is the vector 0, negative 1, 1. That corresponds to the point 0, negative 1, 1. So therefore, the curve is not smooth at the following points: 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, negative 1, 0, 1, and 0, negative 1, 1. As you can tell, no, the z coordinates of r of t, or the z component, is constant at 1. So meaning the graph lies on the plane z equals 1. So 1 unit above the xy plane. And there are 4 points where the graph is what? Is not smooth. In fact, I have graphed the curve for you. And this is the curve. Okay? So this is the point, as you can see, the curve lies on the plane z equals 1, and it moves from 0, 1, 1, then right there, and then when t is pi over 2, when t is pi, nandito na siya. When t is 3 pi over 2, pababa siya dito. And when t is, ikot siya. When t is 2 pi, nandito ulit siya. This curve is what we call as an asteroid. Okay? So our problem in this lesson is really this one. If you have a smooth curve C, we ask, what is the length of C? So for example, you can consider the red curve over here, but because we are in calculus, we do not really calculate things directly. Rather, we approximate using methods, or using limiting methods. So in this case, one way to approximate the length is to divide, or is to put segments to the graph of the smooth curve C. Strategically, we would like to divide the curve into small pieces, because if the curve is smooth, then when you zoom in to one of the portions of the curve, because the curve is smooth, it's almost a straight line. So let's see, for example, when you zoom in over here, you can see that at every line segment, the curve is almost a straight line. Therefore, a straight line segment can be a good approximation. Let's zoom back out. So what we do now is we draw line segments like this, or like so. So let's zoom in again. So as you can see, the line segment, or the total length of the line segment, is not really equal the total length of the red curve, because there's an error, as you can tell. Yeah, there's a very small error, but the error can be minimized if we break this down even further, or if we insert more and more points of division along the curve. Okay? But in calculus, if we denote by ds one of the portions of the curve, you see that the red line segment and the red part of the curve, no, are almost the same, or their errors are negligible. Anyway, ds, we use the symbol ds, or we use the differential ds to indicate that this changes. Now you can imagine that the change is now infinitesimal or negligible ang difference nila. Question is, how do we calculate ds? ds, as you can tell, is just a distance between two points in space, and we can consider the distance between 2 points in space like the length of the diagonal of this rectangular box, where the length, width, and height are given by dx, dy, and dz. We know from distance formula that ds is actually the square root of dx squared plus dy squared plus dz squared. Now we have derived a similar calculation before, where we consider this right triangle. In order to get this length, you have to consider this right triangle as well. Do you remember that? So as a result, this is an expression that calculates ds, where you know that x, y, and z are functions of t. In fact, x is, let me just write here, dx dt is a derivative x prime of t, right? dy dt is a derivative y prime of t, and dz dt is a derivative z prime of t. Therefore, in differential form, we can say that dx is x prime of t dt, dy is y prime of t dt, and dz is z prime of t dt. If you plug in these values on this formula, like this, you get this. The dt's will be squared and will be factored out. There will be square root, they are non-negative quantities. It's equal to this. And this expression is actually the norm of the derivative, not r, the derivative, kasi may mga derivatives ito. So you can write ds simply as the norm of the derivative r prime times dt. Now in calculus, when we want to sum up all of the little pieces, because that's what we want, we use an integral. Therefore, we have the following formula. The length of a smooth curve C, parametrized by r of t, is equal to the integral of the norm, or the magnitude, of r prime of t dt. It can be expressed in several other ways as shown. So what we need to find in order to get the length is the derivative. Take the norm, like so, and then the resulting function, you integrate that from a to b. Okay? Let's illustrate this in examples. For example, let's get the length of the curves parameterized as shown. Number 1, the circular helix equation, or the circular helix from 0 to 4 pi, 2 cycles of circular helix. And the next one is the asteroid. Now I want to remind you that the formula given in the previous slide works only for smooth curves. In the case of the asteroid, because of the symmetry, the asteroid looks like this, right? You can just get one portion of it, let's say this one, this is smooth portion, and then multiply by 4 by symmetry. But let's begin with the circular helix first. Sorry. How do we get the length of the circular helix? Well, first we need to get the derivative. The derivative is minus sine t. Derivative of sine t is cosine t. Derivative of t is 1. Then, get the norm is the square root of minus sine t squared cosine t squared plus 1 squared. If you simplify, if we simplify, what do we get? Square root of, this is 1 plus 1, square root of 2. Okay? Right. So therefore, the length of the helix is equal to the integral from a to b, in this case 0 to 4 pi. The vector derivative, the norm of the vector derivative. So I get integral from 0 to 4 pi square root of 2 dt. So this is an easy integral. So you can see square root of 2, and this one is 4 pi. So the length is 4 square root of 2 pi. Actually, for the case, or in the case of the helix, we can calculate the length without doing an integral. If now you consider the helix as well, you can consider this cylinder. This helix has it goes around the cylinder twice, right? Like so, right? What we can do now, this height is 4 pi because the z coordinate goes from 0 to 4 pi. Now the radius of the circle is 1 unit because this parametrization is the parametrization for the unit circle. Now one way to find out the length of the helix is to actually cut. Let's do a cut over here. Let's cut the cylinder and then unwrap it to become a rectangle. So you can imagine that you just have a rectangle, and its diagonal is the helix, right? Now remember, this is 4 pi, correct? From the bottom to the top, it's 4 pi. How about the length of this right triangle? Well, as you can see, we move around the circle twice. So therefore, 2 times the circumference, that 2 times 2 pi r is 1, you get what? 4 pi, right? So using the Pythagorean theorem, the length can be calculated as the square root of 4 pi squared plus 4 pi squared. So you get, what's this? A square root of 64 pi? Why is this wrong? Yeah. So this is 4 square root of 2 pi. Mali lang ako nang nasa isip. Kasi parang 45 right triangle pala to, kasi equal to 4 pi, so you just multiply square root of 2. Okay, so that's it. How about for the asteroid? So this one is not easy to get using a simple geometry, so we calculate using calculus. First take the derivative. This is 3. What's this? 3 cosine squared t sine t, pero may negative. Then what? 3 sine squared t cosine t. Derivative is 0. So what's the norm? The norm is the square root of 9 cosine to the 4th t sine squared t, 9 sine to the 4th t cosine squared t plus 0. That's the square root of, I can use this, 9, I can factor out 9 cosine squared t sine squared t just like before, no? And then may iwanan dito, cosine squared t plus sine squared t. That's 1, so that's 3 absolute value of cosine t sine t. Okay? Now we're going to integrate from where? So as you can see, let's try to draw the asteroid once more. So it's like this is the asteroid. Now remember, the formula works only for smooth curves. The asteroid is not smooth. So by symmetry, we could just take one arc of the asteroid like this from 0 to 2 pi. 0 to pi over 2. And then just multiply by 4. Okay? It's 4 times the integral from 0 to pi over 2, 3 times absolute cosine t sine t dt. But you see, in the interval from 0 to pi over 2, cosine t and sine t are both positive. So we can just ignore the absolute value sign. So it will become something like this. Cosine t sine t or sine t cosine t, whichever is convenient. So how do we evaluate this? If you let u be sine t, du is cosine t dt. Right? So this is just of the form du du. It's 12 u du. But what will be the new limits? When t is 0, what is u? Sine 0 is 0. When t is pi over 2, what is u? 1. So this is just 12 u squared over 2 from 0 to 1. 12 times 1 half. 12 times 1 half? Yeah, 6 units. So it turns out that this asteroid has an integer length of 6. Now let's go back to the physics. If r of t represents the position function of a point P moving in space, then the length of the curve, like what we are talking about, is represented or is known in physics as the distance traveled. So take note that the displacement is different from the distance. If let's say the path of the motion is something like this, a smooth one, the displacement is the vector from here to there. So this is displacement vector. While the distance is the actual length of the curve, or where the point is traveling. So that's the distance versus displacement. The distance is a scalar, the displacement is a vector. So of course the formula to get the distance or the length is the integral of the derivative of the position. But the derivative of the position is the velocity, and the norm of the velocity is the speed. Therefore the distance traveled is just the integral of the speed from A to B. Okay? So let's consider this example. This is the last slide for this lesson. A point moves in space at an initial velocity of I plus 2j plus k, such that it accelerates according to the equation a of t equals as shown. Calculate the distance traveled by the point during the first 2 seconds after it was launched. So, in order to calculate distance, we need the speed because we're going to integrate the speed from 0 to 2. But in order to get the speed, you need the velocity. If you are given the acceleration, the velocity, taking note that the derivative of the velocity is the acceleration, then we can say that the velocity is the integral of the acceleration. Therefore, what's the integral of the acceleration? Let's do the integration. It's the integral. What is the x component of the acceleration? Well, that's 0, wala kang I. Ito yung 1 over square root of t plus 1, comma, 1 over 2 square root of t plus 1 dt. So we will integrate this per component. So dito meron kang constant, pero hindi ko na muna ilalagay, mamaya na. What's the indefinite integral of square root of t plus 1? Scratch. O, i-check nyo na lang ha. This is 2 square root of t plus 1. This is a simple let u be t plus 1. Okay? So this is 2 square root of t plus 1. Ayusin natin. Square root of t plus 1, comma, ito naman square root of t plus 1. Don't forget the arbitrary constant vector. Okay. We are given that the initial velocity is I plus 2j plus k, so that's 1, 2, 1. Therefore, the value of v is 1, 2, 1 whenever t is 0. When t is 0, this is 2. When t is 0, the third component is 1. So what should be the value of c, the vector c? 1, 2, 1 minus 0, 2, 1, we get what? 1, 0, 0. Is that correct? Yeah. So therefore, our velocity function is, let's go back here, no? I-add mo yung plus c, magiging 1, 2 square root of t plus 1 square root of t plus 1. We can now get the speed. Speed is the norm of the velocity. So it's the square root of, square root of square ng 1, square neto 2 times t, 4, square of 2 is 4 times t plus 1, square root of t plus 1 is t plus 1. Let's simplify. Square root of yung mga constants, 1 plus 4 plus 1, that's 6. Yung mga t, 4t plus t, 5t. So this is s of t. Therefore, the distance traveled during the first 2 seconds is the integral from 0 to 2, s of t dt. In this case, is the integral from 0 to 2 of the square root of 6 plus 5t dt. Finally, let u be 6 plus 5t. Then du is 5 dt. So we need a factor of 5. So what's the distance? Square root of u du, pero mandadaya ka dito ng 5. Now what is the new u limit? When t is 0, u is 6, right? But when t is 2, u is 16. power formula, u to the 1/2 plus 1, so u to the 3 halves over 3 halves. U equals 6 to 16. So this is 2 over 15. U to the 3 halves, or evaluate natin. 16 to the 3 halves is the square root of 16 4 cube 60. Sorry again. U to the 3 halves, when u is 16, square root of 16 is 4 cube 64. Okay, minus when u is 6, well, 6 to the 3 halves is 6, is square root of 6, 1 and 1/2 units. So this should give you the total length. In decimals, how long is this? I don't know. Maybe you can approximate, and I think this is positive, no? Because 6 square root of 6 is around 2 point something. So even when it is, let's say, 3, 6 times 3 is 18, 64 minus 18 remains positive. Okay, so this is a good answer. Okay, see you in the next lesson.